This is a short video on how to light the forge in the Makersmiths blacksmith area. This is the valve on the top of the propane bottle. This is the spot where they fill the propane bottle. We don't need to worry about that. This is the on-off valve for the propane tank. Clockwise to close, counterclockwise to open. And this is where the regulator attaches. Now this is a left-hand thread, so it's going to run backwards to what you're normally used to. This actually loosens it. Take the plug out, then inspect inside to make sure that nothing is crawled up inside there. Next thing you'll want to know is inspect the O-ring on the end of the regulator. You want it to be complete all the way around, no cuts, no gaps. It needs to be whole. This is what seals the regulator to the cap. If the O-ring looks something like this, it's got a cut in it or a split, it's not any good, it's going to leak propane, don't use it, get a new O-ring. Because of course this is left-hand threads, it's going to seam backwards. Tighten it in, and we're just going to run it down finger tight. It's a long thread, it takes a little bit. And then we're just going to hand tighten this down snug, not real tight. We don't want to crush that O-ring. You want to make sure the gauge is in a position where you can read it.
The other end of the hose is a quick connect. It's got a rubber protector that comes off, and the sleeve slides back in order to connect it to the end of the hose on the burners. So we'll pull that sleeve off, slide this back, press it on, and the collar will go all the way up. It'll be a nice tight connection. Take the two covers and connect them together. Let them hang there just to keep them from getting lost. Let's pre-adjust the controls on the burners. These are the valves that control the propane, the amount of propane that flows into the furnace. These are the on-off valves. When the valve is across the pipe direction, the valve is off, and when it's in line with the pipe direction, the valve is on and allowing propane to flow. We want to open these about a half a turn, and basically this little line is going to point up or towards the forge. On both valves. Then we want to open up the air venturies, and we want to open up the air venturies about one turn. So about that much, both the same. Now we're ready to turn on the propane.
Crank on the propane by opening the valve. You should see some pressure come up on the gauge. Let's open the valve up all the way. We don't want to restrict the flow to the forge. This knob is used to adjust the regulator pressure. Cranking it this way will increase the pressure, this way will decrease the pressure. We want to start off with about 20 pounds on the gauge.
Next, you're going to want to rescue the propane torch. This is used for lighting the forge. It's going to be somewhere probably on the lower level of the hammer cart. Now to light the forge. Slide the bricks back a little on either side. Find the propane torch. This valve opens, turns on the gas in the torch. This trigger is the igniter that causes the propane torch to light. I'm going to stick the torch into the edge of the forge. Notice my hand is protected back here. At that point, I'm going to turn on both of the gas valves on the burners, and the forge should light. I found this propane torch lights real well if you hold it at about this angle. So here we go. Gas on. Ignited. In the forge, gas coming on. One burner, two burners. Release the trigger, turn off the gas. Now you'll notice that we've got two flames burning well inside the forge, but the near one looks a little weak. The far one's a nice brighter blue. That means we've got a little bit too much air on that particular burner, so I'm going to close down the venturi on that burner by screwing down or turning clockwise the little butterfly adjustment until that flame is nice and blue. That looks about right. If you get too much air, the flames are going to look really washed out and pale. If you get not enough air, if you close the venturi down too far, the flame is going to get a sort of a greenish tinge, and it'll look more like this, and it doesn't burn very well. So you want to adjust the air on both burners until you've got nice blue flames on both burners, and that'll give you the best efficient use of fuel and the best heat inside the forge. To shut down the forge, I'm going to go over to the propane bottle and I'm going to turn off the main gas supply valve, and you'll hear the forge and you'll see the forge sort of stutter out. At this point, you want to close both of the venturis. If you fail to do that, heat's going to migrate up these tubes and this thing will get really, really hot. Turn off the local gas valves, and we're going to disconnect, the quick disconnect on the supply hose. Remember to cover up the ends of the supply hose with the protective covers. Slide the bricks back in front of the forge openings. This will keep the forge from cooling too quickly and potentially cracking. And it will just help the forge cool at a steady rate. Remember, if you've been forging for a while, those bricks are going to be hot. Use a tool to move them.
Remove the regulator from the propane tank. Remember, left-hand threads. So you're going to do what you would expect to normally tighten to release this. Coil up the regulator and hose and put it back where you found it. And put the little plastic plug back into the valve. Remember, it's a reverse thread. Screw it down snug. That's good. That's all there is to it.